what he's doing throughout the week. Today he had mine at 11, so I'm glad we had as many people as we do here at 12. And he asked me what the topic was. I really didn't know what the topic was last night, and I just started doing some reading this morning, and what I was reading about was encouragement. And it really had nothing to do with as far as business. It was more or less just a devotional I was doing. And I started reminding me of a lot of things that I did in my school as far as encouragement. And I think I was in a unique position because when I had my school in Florida, my two young kids were in the program at the same time. And when you're teaching kids, you teach kids. But when you're teaching your kids, something happens because you can tell what they're thinking just when they're looking at you. I mean, I can't tell what everyone else is thinking, but my kids, I could read their mind. And encouragement became a big tactic because it wasn't just any kid, it's your kid. And I know there shouldn't be any difference in that, but it did make a difference for me. And I really felt I became a master of encouraging my students. I feel I produced some really good students. I had good retention. And I kind of wanted to share some of the ideas of encouragement. And this just isn't praising students. This is encouraging. I kind of think praising them is kind of an end result of their journey. Encouragement is to motivate them to continue that journey if they're doing really good or if they're facing challenges. All that has to do with encouragement. And we start thinking about teams that we create, our team of instructors, our team of people that are working the business part of the school. They also need that type of encouragement. So I took some notes when I was reading today. I just kind of want to share this. The more I did, the more I was kind of impressed on what these simple ideas really do. It started off when I was reading today, every person has an invisible sign that reads, encourage me. When I was with Nick Kokinis, who was my first mentor in martial arts, he used to say, everyone's got a sign that says, make me feel important. I think these both invisible signs are really, really neat. And I think it's kind of important for us to really keep that in mind because we come in contact with people every single day. We come in contact with our students, the parents, our team members, people that are vendors from you, prospects. You're out there doing flyers. You're out there doing rack cards. You come up to a lot of people. And for each person you have come in contact to, you have a great opportunity to encourage them. Just the words you say and the words you choose can make such a big difference. We talk about, our business and our mission statements and our vision statements. And the most important thing about your business is the why. So they call that the golden circle. The golden circle is actually 3 circles. The inside is the why, and then you got to have the what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But everything you do in your business is driven by the why. And when I look at different people's posts on Facebook, I've been to different schools. In fact, I was just helping one of the clients on their mission statement, David actually on his mission statement. And the important thing is when we did the mission statement, they had 3 different sections. The first thing is why we do what we do. So if you're thinking about making positive changes in your community, I'm going to improve my community 1 new black belt at a time. The why is producing good, solid black belts. Any type of that why, you want to make sure we encourage people to grow in that direction. So what is really encouragement? I read this, I don't know who this really is, but if you treat an individual as he is, he will remain how he is. But if you treat him as he were already what he ought to be, what he could be, he'll become what he ought to be and could be. So when you're talking to your students, if you're just kind of talking to them, hey, you're doing really well in class, I'm really proud of you. Well, you're just reaffirming what they already know about themselves. If you start talking to students if they were already black belts, hey guys, we're going to be lining up today and we're going to be doing some kicks. I know this is a white belt class, but I really want you to start thinking about what you're going to become through the martial arts. How are you becoming a black belt? And there's things today you can do just like a black belt. you can focus just like a black belt. So when I'm talking to you, you have your eyes on me. You're listening to what I'm telling you. You can have a stance of a black belt because the only thing you have to do is have your legs spread this far apart and bend your knees and keep your back straight. So already you're standing like a black belt. You're not be fast as a black belt, as powerful as a black belt, but you're going to get there someday. But there's a lot of things right today you can start doing as a black belt. So now you're going to get a total different outcome. They say, okay, this is a white belt class. Say, I really don't expect a lot out of you, but if you can pay attention, that would be really good. Well, that's not really encouragement. They're already at that level. So encouragement is painting a picture in their mind of what they could be and what they ought to be after continuous training. So when we use our words, we want to use our words for encouragement. Again, think of this. How is this student going to be? How is he going to act? How is he going to talk? How is he going to carry himself when he becomes a black belt? I want to encourage that type of behavior now. So I'm already treating him how he's going to be when he's, I don't want to say done with the program, but he's accomplished 2 or 3 years in the program. So a couple of things that we can just take a list. You may want to write some of these down or just think about them. Or maybe when I'm reading these, you could say, okay, this is what I need to work on now, and this is how I could do that. But treat people as the best possible version of themselves. And again, what are they going to be like when the process is gone a couple years? The best version of themselves. A lot of times we don't do that with employees, because employees, sometimes we start looking for things that actually we don't look for them. We just start noticing more the things that we don't want to see. They're late for class. They do this wrong. They're not dressed properly. So we don't start seeing them in the best possible version. But what do we really want out of our employees? So we want to make sure that we encourage them focusing on what we want them to do. We don't really want to focus on what they do wrong or their faults, because we're constantly focused on their faults. We're not going to see them as the best possible version. If this employee sticks with me and he has a training and he practices his skills, he's working with me for a long time, what's he going to be like this in a year? Well, I want to start kind of treating him that as the end results. I want to encourage him to get to that end results. If I constantly talk to him about what he's doing wrong and the negative, he's also going to be focused on that, and he won't become the best version of themselves. Scott Axford does this in Instructor College, and I really like what he does, because he'll have someone coming up and they're doing the technique incorrectly, and the instructors have to correct them. Now, almost all instructors, and we just do this because as martial artists, we tend to look for what people do wrong so we can make corrections. So when you go to make a correction, instead of telling the person something negative, you've got to turn everything around so it's positive instruction. So maybe someone's doing a roundhouse kick and they're not chambering their knee. Hey guys, you can't be lazy. When you lift your leg up, you got to make sure that it's chambered. If it's not chambered, you're not going to get any power. That's kind of talking negative things. So you want to switch that around. Before you open your mouth and start letting words escape, we got to switch it around. How can we do that? Totally positive. Hey, if we want to have this kick really, really sharp, and I know you do because you're looking to have that black belt quality, when you lift your leg, make sure that knee is bent, the foot's pulled back, really chamber that. That's going to be the position now for you. Have good execution for your kick. Let's try that. So you're just saying, okay, they're doing this wrong. I'm not going to say they're doing it wrong. I'm going to teach them in the positive. It's one of the hardest things when we become an instructor. I've done this instructor so many times that, and I always get the same type of results. I'll say, okay, everyone just watch me for a second, guys around me, and I'll do a push-up. And I'll do a push-up to my best of my ability. Almost no one will say anything. Then I'll do a push-up, and I'll probably just go halfway down, and I've got my butt up in the air, and everyone jumps in. Everyone can make that correction. But when I did it right, they didn't make a comment. They weren't becoming good fighters. Same as Silva, that was a great push-up, man. You went all the way down to the floor. Your head was up. You had good breathing, good execution. Your elbows are in nice and tight. They don't find that, but they can find things I'm doing wrong. So, again, I challenge you when you think in you're making positive corrections. You learn to be positive in your corrections and not saying what they're doing wrong. And also make sure you're looking for the good things and express comments, express encouragement on the good things. So what if your words grew out of a vision of the fulfilled potential instead of the current reality? And this is what I was just talking about. You know, if my student is to get a black belt, I want to talk about him in words that are going to go towards that vision of a black belt, not his current reality of being slow, not motivated, not trying his hardest. Now, when you start acting like a black belt, this are the things you're going to look for. So I'm going to encourage him to start acting like a black belt now, not encourage his participation of continuing to act like a white belt. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. I love that saying. I don't know who said that, but I love that saying. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. If you start looking at employees and you're all looking at the things that they're doing wrong, they always stay wrong. If you all of a sudden take a look at the things that they're doing and say, hey, they're really putting a lot of effort. I really like the way this instructor, when he get out there, that he really praises students. I really like the way this instructor goes up to parents and talks to the parents. If I'm always looking at the negative things, I'm going to find the negative things. If I change the way I look at things and say, hey, I'm going to try to find out 5 good things that this instructor is doing on a continuous basis, and I'm going to make note of them. Well, if you change the way you look at things, all of a sudden, everything you look at changes. You'll start finding those positive things. Another thing about encouragement, I'm guilty of this, and I know I probably hurt some people that were close to me in this. People in your life already know what the problems are. You don't need to keep telling them. If you keep saying, you're a little bit lazy. I can't believe, how do you even get out of bed in the morning? Well, good chance this person already knows they have these faults. Reminding them isn't going to do any good. It's not going to change them. So if you're a self-appointed a fail finder and a problem fixer, or you're a source of encouragement. So again, that's kind of reiterates what we just talked about on the last page. It's just kind of a self-evaluation. Am I the person that's looking for failure in students, failure in my instructors? Am I a problem fixer? In other words, I see all these problems. I'm not really trying to change the person. I'm just trying to fix their problems. Or am I a source of encouragement? That's just kind of a question that you can answer yourself. I just know from instructor colleges, I don't think people think that they are negative, but they are good at finding faults in people doing the martial arts and doing their training. So a lot of times we just have to say, okay, I may not be meaning to do this, but my actions are doing that. So I have to kind of change my approach so I become more a source of encouragement. So I got a couple of things here. 6 tips on using words of encouragement for kids. Praise sincerely and honestly. In instructor colleges, we do what's called the alphabet game. The alphabet game is to expand how we are going to give praise. I went to a school one time, and I was watching an instructor. I go, man, he said awesome like 3 or 4 times already. So I started checking off how many times he said awesome, and I believe it was 68 times. So it was like a 45-minute class. He said awesome 68 times. So we started an instructor college to do the alphabet game. So A could be awesome, B could be beautiful, best I've ever seen, C could be courageous, courage, D could be dynamite, E could be excellent, F could be fantastic, G could be greatest I've ever seen, H could be how did you do that? So you have an encouraging word for every letter of the alphabet. That's a really cool thing to practice. But after we learn to praise, we have to learn to praise sincerely and honestly. So as instructors, we try to be motivated. But not all the times we go, oh, great, great, great. Sometimes we go, put our hand on the shoulder, go, man, you did really great in class today. It's 2 different things. One is just highly motivation. The other is getting emotional connection. So one of the things about encouragement is learn to praise sincerely and honestly. So after you do the alphabet game, I like to get all my instructors lined up, and one has to praise the next, the other has to praise the next. And I said, okay, it's motivation time, and they're all praising motivation. It's sincerity time. So now everyone's praising more sincerity. And you got to do it honest. I mean, one of the things that people can tell is if you're going to be totally truthful to them. If you're telling someone that's the greatest I've ever seen, and he wasn't really trying, in his heart he knows that you're not being truthful. If you want to win trust with your students, do it sincerely and do it honestly. Next thing is we want to be specific and descriptive. I was at another school one time, and the instructor got his hand on the heavy bag, and he has all the students lined up, and kids are going and goes, very good, nice, great job, that was awesome, terrific. Well, those are all praising words, but it wasn't specific. If you want people to repeat behavior, they want to know what behavior you're praising. So if I said, hey, that was a great job, really nice chamber. Okay, next kid comes up, nice job. I love the way you had your hands come up. It was really guarding your face. Well, if I'm specific, I'm going to get them to repeat that behavior. And they also know that I'm watching them and I'm being more sincere. So when you are using words of encouragement, be specific and descriptive. Praise, effort, and the process. Not all the time everyone's going to be doing great, but they could be putting great effort. They've got a real strong key. I can see you really trying, man. That's a warrior face. Your eyes are just bugging out of your head. Look, those veins are coming out. I see all that progress of sweat. So if there isn't ability, they haven't been taking long enough, praise their effort. Praise their effort. And once they praise their effort, they're going to be trying harder. When they try harder, they are going to see progress. And pretty sure you are praising progress and encouraging progress. We've already done this, make corrections positive. We don't tell them what they're doing wrong and what to correct. We just switch our words around so we're getting the same results through a positive action. This is really important, and I think everyone listening to this is probably guilty. Avoid comparison praise. Hey, well, I can't believe that. You can do it almost as good as David. Or all of a sudden David comes up and David does a great roundhouse kick. I'm praising him. And now I say, who can do it better than David? And all of a sudden David says, I thought I was doing good. Now everyone in the class can do it better than me. So try not to compare one student to the other. Everyone's on their own individual quest to be your best student or be their best version of themselves. So don't compare students. A little friendly competition is fun, but you're not really praising the results of that. We don't want to have any type of that comparison praise. Avoid easy task praise or overpraise. So all of a sudden you just said, hey, everyone bow on the mat. I can't believe how good you guys did that. That was just amazing. I mean, we're taking an easy task and we're praising too much of it. It takes away the sincerity. It takes away the challenges that we want to create for the students to bring out the best. Not everything's easy. When they have a larger obstacle to come over, then we can increase our level of praise. I was telling Jerry Prince when we first started this, I went to a event this weekend. It was called Manatee Fest. It was down here in Florida. They had a section for kids, and they had these big puzzle pieces, and families were doing these big puzzles. It could be of a manatee or something for the ocean. And my grandson, who's 6 years old, goes over there, and he just sits down with another family, and he starts putting these puzzle pieces together. And I was pretty impressed. I've never seen him do a puzzle before. And he found like 4 or 5 pieces. And I thought, that's my grandson. He did a good job. And so when he was done, I go, Andrew, you're a really good puzzle maker. He goes, no, I'm not. He says, I don't like doing puzzles. I go, you just did so good. He goes, yeah, but the little puzzles are really hard, and I can't do the little pieces. Bigger pieces are easy. So that was a really good opportunity for me to praise him. My daughter is really good praising her kids, especially when the kids can't do something. She always says, you can't do it. And then they'll think, they go, yet. Yeah, you can't do it yet. And so I was talking to Andrew, all those smaller pieces, you may not be able to do those yet, but you have the talent with the larger pieces, you're going to get better and better. So I'm trying to paint that version of Andrew being a great puzzle maker. He's not there yet, but I can still encourage him to keep going on. Instead of having the belief that he originally had was that I'm no good at puzzles. That's a terrible belief. I mean, he can be as good as he wants on anything, so it's important that the people around him encourage him. So that was the lesson of my grandson. As martial arts instructors, you have those opportunities, and your staff has those opportunities every day to encourage your students. Okay, now let's get to employees, because we talk about encourage students, but we want to hit both areas. First, set the example. To cultivate new leaders, you have to lead by example. I don't know who said this, but I've heard this saying over and over. Your actions are speaking so loud, I can't hear a thing you are saying. So in other words, don't just tell your team what to do and not follow up with good actions. You have to set the example. If you want to be that motivated instructor, if you want to be that person that goes above and beyond and gives people extra help, if you want your instructors to be able to talk to parents and talk to parents about their kids, if you want your instructors to go out there and ask for referrals, lead by example. Make sure you're doing it. Don't just have them say, okay, you have to do this, and you don't do it. They're looking at your actions and compare it to what you're saying. So always be a good leader. Set the example. Make sure you recognize people's strengths. Make sure you recognize why you hired them. This is one thing I'd say is really, really important. Sometimes we hire an instructor because he's a good black belt, he's got good skills, he's got good communication. We hire to be the instructor. Then we get totally pissed at him because he's not going out and doing marketing cards and rack cards and school talks. Well, that's not why you hired him. You hired him because he had the strengths of being a good instructor. Make sure you recognize their strengths, encourage their strengths. If it's that important to you that he also learns other tasks, just remember, you didn't hire him to do that task. Don't expect him to be as good at marketing without training as he is as a black belt instructor. You spent a lot of time getting those black belt skills. You haven't spent a lot of time talking to strangers and seeing if someone wants to put rack cards in their pizza house. So recognize their strengths and realize it takes time to develop other strengths. Make sure you let others make decisions. When you're doing some type of meeting and you're asking people for input, and then the only thing you do is what you decide, and you don't listen to anyone else, you're not encouraging them to be active participants in the building of your school. So let other people make decisions. If they say that, they think that it would be a real good idea if the parents were sitting over here instead of over there, and you go, hey, that's not a bad idea. I'm glad you suggested that. It's really important that I have a team member that's not always thinking like me, that's coming up with different ideas. That's really important to me. So encourage people by letting them make important decisions. Give people more responsibility. That's one way we can encourage them to take more action. You're doing really good here in the classes. I'm going to be leaving a little early today. It'd be really important that if you can lock up for me, and after you lock up, just send me your report. Tell me what activities you did, how many people you signed up. Give them more responsibilities. Don't impose fear. In other words, every time something goes wrong, if you just go off the wall and start screaming at someone and kind of putting them down in public, they're not going to want to do anything out of their comfort zone because of the fear of making the wrong decision. So if something goes wrong, as they will, make sure that if we have to do any kind of talking, we do that in private. Again, if we want to praise, we can do that in public. But we don't want people to be afraid of making mistakes, because then they're not going to be doing anything. Guys who've been working with me one-on-one, I love this one. Help them plan their future. You have to be interested in what goals your staff has, not just in your own goals. I kind of tell you the what I think is kind of a crazy story, but it's like me taking my whole staff out. And I wanted to treat them, so we're going to the country club. And as we're going to the country club, we're going by some nice houses that, there's a Porsche out there, there's a Ferrari out there. I go, man, look at that car. Look at that beautiful house. Man, this guy's got everything. Look at the pool he has. Guys, if you keep working hard, someday all that's going to be mine. It's really hard for you to get staff to rise up and just do your goals. If you have a staff member who's 20 years old and go, hey, what's really important to you? I'd really like to find out what's important to you in your future to see if I can help you with your goal because I really value you as an employee. He goes, well, I've been living with my parents and I have a chance to move in with a couple other guys and rent an apartment. I really want to rent an apartment and be able to be on my own a little more. I'm not ready to go on by myself, and I know I can't afford that, but I really like to have this opportunity. Well, if you can help them make that happen, and if it's maybe adding a couple more hours or doing some financial incentives, but knowing what their future is going to be like. In fact, I use that story because I saw someone lose a really good employee because that's exactly what happened. He was out of college. He's 23 years old. He wanted to get his own apartment. This instructor owner was thinking, well, he's a young guy. He doesn't need to make that much money. I'm not going to pay him that much. And he ended up losing a very good person. He wouldn't have lost that person if he was concentrating not only on his future, but their future. Next thing, if you're going to keep someone your employee, you've got to trust them. If you don't trust them, don't keep them as an employee. If you know someone's stealing from you, you've got to get rid of them. But you have to trust your employees. They have to, again, feel valued. That's one way you can really encourage them. I'm going to be taking Saturday off. I'm going to have you run the school. Just make sure that at the end of the day, you put the money in the safe and this and that. Yeah, I totally trust you. I know you're going to do a great job. That's a way of encouragement. And again, just as we talked about with our students, start looking for the good and you're going to find it. Avoid just going on the negative. Work on the negative. Try to change the negative. Encourage them to make changes in their life, but become a good finder. You're going to find the good things they're doing. You're going to find their strengths. So I know this isn't like a 1, 2, 3 to marketing, but I think it's a important lesson for our instructors, the way they're going to treat our students, encourage our students. I think it's really important as you start moving up the ladder and you're hiring more instructors and figure out how you can get the best out of your instructors. Too often, I hear a lot of complaining and not a lot of positive things being done to cultivate great instructors. Do we have any comments? People just want to jump in and say something. I know Mr. Convento is doing really good with staff training. And what I admire about him, he's not just training his black belts, but he's hired because of his expansion. He had to hire people from outside. He's doing very well, I believe, with people he's hired from the outside.
I just want to say those are very true words, and they're good reminders for me too. I just had an employee, he came to the meeting late, and I had to have, you still got to have the hard conversations with people and just be honest with them. But we definitely can be more encouraging. And I love the idea of promoting that person to their highest, best self. That's hard sometimes when you see an employee do a couple of things like coming into our meetings late. Mm-hmm. But we do have meetings every week for instructor training and then staff training almost daily on the things that could be better and the things that they're doing well. But I think we should definitely encourage more, and I could do more of that too.
I did a Tony Robbins event. This was probably in the 90s, and he did it on personal rules. Everyone has their own personal rules. And a good staff meeting is, if I say come here at 3 o'clock, what does that mean to you? Some people say, I've got to be here at 3 o'clock. Other people say, well, I was brought up where you have to be 10 minutes early. If you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. Someone else will say, well, 3 o'clock means that I have to get here early. I have to make sure that I'm properly dressed out, and everything, and I got to be on the deck 10 minutes early. But it's real important that they know your rules, because you're judging them on your rules. So a lot of times when people are late, I used to have some guys that were constantly late. When I first started dating my wife, she was constantly late. But her rules was, she was from Miami, so she was on Miami time. Miami time means if you kind of show up before bedtime, you're at the right time. Me, if it's 6 o'clock for dinner, it's 5:45 for dinner. So I think discussing personal rules as far as time and other things is really important. Okay, I will put out the ranking system for the 100 students in 100 days. Tomorrow we're going to talk to a couple of people about what they're doing. So I'm going to pick out our top 3 leaders, make sure they're on tomorrow, and they're going to share some ideas on what they're doing to get those 100 students in 100 days. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you, sir.